Welcome to the Driveway Beers podcast with Mike and Alex. Thank you for joining us, and we hope you enjoy the show. Please like, subscribe, comment, and share on any platform that you're listening on. All right, welcome to the Driveway Beers podcast show. Thank you for listening. I want to thank Cheers and Spirits for sponsoring this episode. Please like, subscribe, comment, and share. Hope you enjoyed last week's episode. We kind of did a retread of an episode no one had heard about. It was our After Dark episode after a heavily drinking smorgasbord. Where I think by the time we recorded that second part, dude, I think I was pretty much in the bag.
Yeah, I was pretty much toast. So,
so we took a couple weeks off of recording. Because we recorded enough to get us through 2 weeks ago, and then I screwed up the scheduling of everything, so we just reused an old episode. So this is probably the first time we've recorded in probably about 3 weeks or so, maybe 4.
Yeah, it's been a minute. So
we got some updates. We both went on some vacations. I finally got the Tahoe back, or the Yukon, got that back, so I can actually drive it now. You'll never guess what I mean. I might have told you what happened with we changed out some parts and some stuff just did not work. Let's see what else. Planning some other trips to go RVing, and we were actually looking to trade in. Actually, at first we thought about selling it, and then we were like, well, maybe we'll go into a different type. So we can get into that too.
Sure. Well, it's funny because Lindsay and I have been talking about maybe in the future getting one. So, because my middle, he went on a trip with some friends to Jellystone, and they have a tow behind. They have a trailer, and he really liked it. And my wife went in it before they left, and she thought it was so cool and how much room and stuff. So we can probably we'll get into talking about the pros and cons of a tow behind versus Class A versus all the other stuff. So
definitely,
yeah.
So we just got back. We went up to Providence, and then we went to Martha's Vineyard to see my aunt. We try and go see her we used to go every year, and then we took a COVID year off, and then we took last year off. So we hadn't been in 2 years, but my girls really like going up and seeing my aunt, my uncle, and my cousins. So my aunt had kids late, so her children are my first cousins. They're about 23, 24. So they're actually as old as my second nephew.
Okay.
My second oldest nephew. So I never really interacted too much with them when they were younger, but I've been trying, we try to make an effort now that they're older. So we go up there, we have a good time. Flew into Providence, hung out in Providence for I shouldn't say we hung out in Providence. We flew into Providence. Then we actually drove to Boston.
Okay.
We were just looking for something to do kind of impromptu. And so we drove up to Boston, and we were going to do duck tour, the duck tour, the duck boats.
A DKUW, where they call them, like the old World War II, like amphibious boat truck type of thing.
Yeah, that they repurposed for stupid tourists like me.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
No longer storming the beaches of Normandy. Now they're just putzing around Boston in the harbor. So,
yeah.
We got there, and the next available one was 6 hours from when we got there. So we got there around noon. Next boat was 6. We're like, oh, hell no.
Yeah.
So we ended up doing the most touristy thing in Boston you could do, which was we did the city bus tour. And it basically just does a loop around the city, gives you a whole bunch of historical facts, and you can get off and on whenever you want.
Oh, cool.
So we decided we were going to do the whole loop. And then we got off at the second stop. So for us, I think there were 8 stops. So we we essentially got off at the 9th stop.
Okay.
And of course we did my favorite fat boy thing, which was go to a bakery in the North End. an
Okay.
Italian bakery. Got way too much stuff because it all looks so good. And I'm like, that's one thing I don't think we have around here. We don't have like a true Italian bakery.
I think maybe in Baltimore, Little Italy might have one
Yeah, yeah.
up
No, you're
there,
right. Yeah, yeah.
but like around here, no. And we used to go to one. So when I was a little kid, we lived in New Jersey outside of Philadelphia. Went to this place called Del Buono's, and it doesn't get much more Italian than that. And Del Buono's, like you could get the rolls as they were coming off the conveyor belt out of the oven. Like they're so hot they'd burn your hands. And you just put them into a paper bag, and they charge you per bag. So if you put like 3 rolls in it, you pay the same price as if you put a dozen rolls in it.
Yeah.
So one time I went, I was coming back from New York, and I stopped at Del Buono's, and I got a bag of rolls, and I was like, what do these rolls need? They need butter. So I stopped at a store and bought butter. I'm like a true fatty, just driving home, eating rolls and butter.
I'm surprised you
So,
even got to the point where you put butter on them. Fresh rolls from an Italian bakery like that, man. I'd probably stuff that in my face immediately.
well, I was doing that initially, and then I knew they were going to get warmer, or they're going to cool. They're going to need something else. So yeah, I had a butter in a car. Like most people have, like I don't know what's road trip food, like a bag of chips or Doritos and like gummy worms or something. Nope, butter.
Yeah. By the way, when we went to Providence, we rented a car. So if I were to ask you what 3-row SUV that auto bloggers and Motor Trend, which one do they usually say is the best? If you had to guess.
Well, I know they love the Mazdas because they're sporty.
Bingo. That was the
Yeah.
one we got.
Oh
We
yeah.
got we got a Mazda CX-9.
Uh huh.
I freaking hated the thing.
Oh really?
I couldn't stand it. So if you're a larger dude, I mean, stature wise, height wise, I'm not that big, but I don't know. Maybe I just sit in a driver's seat with my legs out too wide. I don't know. But my left leg is like pushed up against the door. My right leg is pushed up against the center console, and they're not soft padded, so they hurt like hell.
Mm-hmm.
The brake pedal is way too close to the accelerator, and
Okay.
the accelerator is like hidden to the right of the center console. So like my not that my leg was like bent outward, but like it was kind of like it was awkwardly angled so I could get to the accelerator.
So like you had to get like you had to like reach your toes like behind the center console to get to the. Is that what you're saying?
Like my foot fit behind, but
Mm-hmm.
like my foot was definitely like further outside of my knee than it normally would be
Right.
if I was driving a car. Like if I sit in any of my other cars, like my knee is probably about the same width away, like the same width as my foot,
Mm-hmm.
but not in this. This I had like cocked the like I had a the knee was like pressed against the center console and my foot was to the outside of that.
Right.
And it's like hard plastic and just like rubbing on my that was horrible.
Yeah.
And then the infotainment system on that thing blows straight up.
Okay.
So it's not a touchscreen. So you got to do everything with the rotary knob and the push button.
Oh, I hate those.
I was
Why can't
like,
they use a touch screen?
yeah,
Everything has a touch screen on it now.
like, so I'm used to a touchscreen with Android Auto. That's what my Chevy's got. Um, my wife's Ford Edge has a touchscreen that just has their sync system or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact I had to hit like a back button 7 times to get out of an app to get back to the map,
Oh,
like
yeah.
I wanted to shoot the thing by the time I was done with it.
Yeah, because even like the Toyota, like in our Sienna, it has like the stuff you want to use all the time. It has its own like button on the touch screen. So
But
if you want to like your map, like you just hit map and it goes to map.
right. Or if
Yeah.
you want to get back, if you want to go back to radio, you hit the back button and you can hit the radio button.
Yeah.
Not this thing. No, no. Like if I wanted to go to Spotify to play a song, I had to make like 3 clicks to get into Spotify. And then if I want to get back to the map, I got to hit the back button 7 times just to get
Wow.
back to the stupid map. I was like, this is the dumbest system I've ever seen. How, like, the only way people think that's a good system is if they've never driven anything else.
Yeah. Well, or there's probably people that have like remember when BMW came out with iDrive
Yes.
and
Ugh.
everyone hated iDrive. It had a stupid similar system. It had a rotary knob like the size of a can of dip, but the knob turned, and then it also you could push it straight down, or you could move it left and right like a joystick.
Mhm.
And most of the people that were buying these things, like these were coming on 5 series and 7 series, were like your baby boomer age people who had no idea what they were doing with it. So a buddy of mine worked for BMW. He actually worked for the BMW here in Arnold, and their tech they would pay to program their iDrive system for them. So they'd sit in the car, and these people would pay like whatever the going labor rate was, like $150 an hour for the tech to sit in there and say, okay, now this is we're going to program this and this and this and this and this. Like it was just they're awful. So I don't know why they just don't stick with stuff that's tried and true. Like, oh, we're going to be different. Why? Like, just do it the same way everyone else. Like that's the way that works.
I mean, don't get me wrong, I like that screen width that they have in there, but it's like that tablet style that you hate.
Oh, it's like in addition.
Yeah.
Why do they do that?
They just slap it right on top of the dash.
Yeah, like you have a car with a beautiful interior and then like an iPad stuck to it. Like I
Mhm.
could have stuck the iPad to my dash using a mount.
Right.
Like that's how it is. It's dumb. So
So I didn't like it for those reasons. I didn't think it drove all that well. Like if you're gonna buy a 3-row SUV, I don't need it to be sporty.
well, that's the problem with everything now is they're making everything sporty
Mhm.
because the designers want to finish number one in the car and driver top 10 list, and these guys are all race car drivers. It's like, oh, I like a stiff suspension. Well, maybe I don't. Maybe I just want to cruise and kill miles and not be fatigued at the end of my trip. So, not everyone's driving like 24 hours at Le Mans. Like, if I'm just trying to drive to Wilmington, North Carolina, I just want to kill miles. I want to turn my brain off and set the cruise and go. And I wish it had autopilot because I'd set that too. But
It was funny. And if I put any weight on the center console, like where the armrest is,
mhm.
I swear to God, I thought I was gonna bust through it.
Wow.
It was that cheaply made.
Hmm.
And then it has a 4-cylinder engine with a turbo
On a vehicle that big,
on a CX-9. Yeah,
was it slow?
it wasn't slow, but with a vehicle that big, the 4 cylinders got to put out some RPMs to keep it going.
Mm-hmm.
So even at like 2,400 RPMs, going like 65, 70, 75, whatever, because it's not very sound deadened, all you hear is the buzz of that 4 cylinder.
Yeah.
Whereas when they go 6 cylinder, like in your Sienna,
Mm-hmm.
the 6 cylinders are because I mean they're not running at such high RPMs, but 6 cylinders and 8 cylinders are generally quieter on the highway than a 4 cylinder because it doesn't have to have the RPMs up as high.
Oh yeah, yeah. Because if I'm in my Sienna doing 70, like I'm barely touching 3,000. Like
Yeah.
it's just right in that little area, and it's happy, and it's like I don't hear the engine. Um, and different kinds of cars for different types of things. Like if I had a sports sedan, I might want to hear the engine thrashing around a little bit.
Right.
But in my minivan, I don't want to hear shit. I
Right.
just want it to go.
Right.
I don't want to
Right.
think about it. I want it to be an appliance. Like I want my refrigerator to just run. I don't want to think about it. That's how the minivan is. It's an appliance. It's not a sports sedan or but I think everyone's trying to make their cars, and I think that's the problem with these everything being a crossover is that they're not good at anything. It's not a good truck because it's a car. It's not a good car because it's overweight. It's trying to be a truck. So it just does everything mediocre rather than being really good at one thing.
Yeah. I,
So
I just don't understand how all these car enthusiasts like they always rank that thing number one.
yeah,
Like you like if you wanted like you said, if you want a race car, get something, get a race car, or get if you want something that can be a little sporty, get a sports sedan, or get a two
Yeah.
seater. I don't know. Like you're not buying a CX-9 and hoping it drives sporty. Like stop ranking that shit number one for a three row SUV.
Yeah. Now, what was
I,
the third? Was the third row decent, or was it not made for adults?
it wasn't made for adults.
Okay. And with it up, I imagine it had zero cargo space back there.
There was a little bit, um, but because they raked the rear roof so much or the rear
Mm-hmm.
hatch, you basically got half of the back to put something in. Because if you put it up any higher than that at the very edge, the
Mm-hmm.
door hits it. Now, luckily, we kept that third row down for the most part. And I mean, I'll give it credit. Like with the third row down, as a 2 row SUV, it's super big for the back.
Mm-hmm.
But if I need a 2 row SUV, I'm probably going to go with something smaller.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just doesn't make any sense. So like the whole time I'm driving it, not that I'm mad. I mean, we were supposed to get something smaller, and they just kind of gave us something bigger because it's probably what they had. But I'm just like, I can't believe all these years I've been reading these reviews. I never really drove one, but I'm like, who would recommend this as a 3 row SUV? Like
Yeah.
this isn't what it should be about.
Yeah.
So
I don't get it, but that's how some of these. I mean, I guess you're just trying to go for. Well, if you had a bunch of foodies come in, and these guys are kind of like the car version of foodies. They're not going to go and rate Popeyes fried chicken. Like they're going to want it to have like all kinds of craziness and the presentation. Like, but Popeyes fried chicken is good. Like I like it. In fact, I prefer that than most foodie food. In fact, I'd
yeah,
prefer that to all foodie food. So that's just who they're going. And I guess if that's the only feedback they're really paying attention to, then that's how the cars are going to come out.
yeah.
So,
And then speaking of cars, we finally got the Yukon back after I think it's been there for 2 months in the shop.
what's the final diagnosis?
So they what was it? I should know this. It was something stupid. He did a fuel induction service.
Okay.
So he basically just cleaned out the fuel system.
Mm-hmm.
And he cleaned out the MAF sensor and he replaced the throttle body.
Okay.
Those were the three things that seemed to have fixed the misfires,
Okay.
which I guess it was going to come down to a fuel issue because it wasn't air, it wasn't a leak anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why he kind of just went ahead and did the fuel induction service, and it wasn't that expensive. I think it was like $250.
Yeah.
I mean, outside of that, I guess we could have replaced some more O2 sensors, but basically, he's like, "Look, man, I'm not showing any misfires on the computer." So he's like, "Why don't you take it from me before I do any more work and make sure it doesn't start up again?" And then if everything goes good for like another month or two, when I take it back in for an oil change, I'll take it back in to get the upper steering shaft, the steering bearing, because that's what the little clunkiness is, and the
Okay.
front end. It's a real easy fix to do. And then I do have to get my oil pan gasket done, which unfortunately for that car, you got to drop the drive shaft to do it.
Oh.
So the labor wise, it's a little bit costly. But while he's in there replacing the gasket, he's going to replace the oil pickup O-ring.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of times with his GMT 800s, the oil pickup tube ring that's in the oil pan, it basically it's just like any other gasket. It wears down and it doesn't pick the oil up, so you lose oil pressure a little bit.
Right.
And so it does run a little bit low on oil pressure, but not like I'm not like where some people are where they're like, so it's like 20, 40, 60.
Mm-hmm.
I'm probably just a little bit left of 40.
Right.
So it's not bad. Um, so I think he's going to do that job. And then I think mechanically I'm done. I don't think
Mm-hmm.
there's anything else. Maybe either a rear diff or the rear main seal, maybe.
Okay.
So it's one of those two, but that's not a big deal either.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but as long as I don't get the misfire back, then I'm all right. I'm
Yeah.
back to fine. I just got to fix some stuff on the seats. Like I got to get The butt or the back end of the front seat of the driver's seat doesn't go up and down. Like the front
Okay.
part where my thighs are goes up and down, but
Hmm.
not the back. So I think I actually am going to just try and replace the switch, or I'm going to hit it with some contact spray, see if it's just a contact issue.
Yeah.
Um, and then the front passenger seat has the same issue. And then I got a little bit of a paint issue. So it looks like there was like heavy scratches, like someone almost took like a wire brush to it,
Hmm.
or a Brillo pad, and like scuffed it up right above the door windows. Like it's on the
Okay.
door, but above the door window.
Okay. Hmm.
Um, so I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it to an auto detailer and see if they can do a little like paint correction,
Okay.
and see if they can, rather than doing like a full repaint job.
Hmm.
Um, because a full repaint job you're looking like $5,000, and I'm
Yeah.
not paying that. I'll deal with the messed up paint. Um, so I'll see if he can fix that part, and then I called the original owner, and I'll get to why in a minute. But uh, I asked him if he had the original hood, because
Hmm.
right now there's that Cal hood, the Cal induction
Yeah.
hood, but I don't have
Yeah.
a supercharger in that thing, so it looks I'm just look like I feel like a jackass driving around with this hood.
Right.
Uh, and he said, "Yeah." And I was like, "Oh, cool. Can I have it?" He goes, "Well, what are you gonna do with the Cal induction one?" I was like,
Hmm.
"Nothing."
Yeah.
And so he's like, "Well, I'll just swap you for it."
Yeah.
Now here's the thing though, the Cal induction hood's like a $400 hood, so
Okay.
it's got more value than the regular hood, just
Hmm.
dollars wise. So I was like, "All right, well, in order for me to get it back, to get it on, do all this other stuff, like it'd be a hassle, right? I have to get someone out there to go with me, put
Yeah.
it on, whatever." So I'm like, "All right, I'll tell you what." I was like, "I'll do an even swap, but you got to help me put it on. You got to help me take the cow hood off and put the other one on."
Hmm.
And I said, the one you've got, the original hood, has got to be in pristine condition. I don't want like chips, dents, whatever. I don't want any
Right.
rust parts. I want even the insulation on the underside. I want that
Yeah.
in good condition.
Hmm.
And he's like, "Cool."
Yeah.
So I'm gonna get the original hood back on it. Um, and then the other two things I might try and do to this thing. One was the Android CarPlay and or Android Auto and Apple CarPlay wireless head unit.
Hmm.
Um, and I'll rip out the old um, uh, backup camera, because right
Okay.
now it's just kind of sits up on the dash with the camera. So if I could put it all into one unit, um, I'll do that, and then I might put on a 20-inch set of rims.
Okay. We're on there
So
now.
17s.
Okay.
And it looks kind of bad. Like not bad. It just looks whatever. But it's a little bouncy on the ride. And
Uh
part of
huh.
that reason is because the sidewall on this tire is huge. Like
Hmm.
it's a soft, huge sidewall. It's made for a smoother ride.
Yeah.
It's a little too bouncy for me, even on the highway.
Hmm.
Um, and so by going with a smaller sidewall on a bigger rim, it's not going to make it rough. It should balance it out pretty well.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. I
so,
just the only thing with going to the bigger rims is that your tire cost kind of goes up a little bit.
yeah,
Um.
the good thing is though that the one like I went on Facebook Marketplace. You got a lot of people that have takeoff rims,
Hmm.
so they literally have brand new tires and rims,
Hmm.
and because they replaced theirs, and they're just trying to get some money for the ones they took off. So
Yeah.
I can get brand new tires and on brand new rims, and they'll be
Oh, okay.
GMCs, and it might be a little bit of a tight fit,
Hmm.
but from everything I've seen, I should be able to make it work. The
Yeah.
only thing they said is it might rub at full lock.
Okay.
But he's like, "How often are you really going lock to lock?" You know what I mean?
You're not going fast when you are.
Right.
So that's like when you're back into a spot or something like that. Maybe.
Maybe. Might get a little
So
rub, but
yeah.
nothing's gonna damage it. You know what I mean?
No. No.
Um, so what ended up happening, the reason why he ended up going with the fuel induction, and this is why everything was kind of fucked up. Um, So originally he was going to get into the ECU to see what was actually going wrong with the misfires,
Mm-hmm.
and him and his buddy couldn't get in with an HB tuner plug-in. They couldn't get in.
Okay.
They basically said the ECU is completely locked out. Like nobody was going to get in this thing. So I went. Oh, it looks like we're running out of time. That's all right. We can always restart it.
Okay.
But I'll finish this part of it. So essentially, what happened was with I bought a new ECU so he could put it in and see how it ran and see if that was the problem. The problem was he put the new ECU in and then couldn't get the key to relearn.
Okay.
And I think that's because of the remote start system.
Mm-hmm.
So the remote start system probably disabled the passkey 2 system or passkey 3 system, which is what the engine immobilizer system,
Mm-hmm.
which made it so that it couldn't relearn the key on
Okay.
the new ECU because the remote starts screwing with the new ECU who doesn't know that there's a remote start on it and disabling the passkey 2 system.
Right.
So essentially he basically put the old ECU back in, did the induction service, did some other things, and it was running fine. So we just said, okay, let's leave it like this. I still have the new ECU. What I might do is I might rip out that system, that remote start system, and I might see what that can do.
Mm-hmm.
Just to see if I can then relearn or do a key relearn because I only have one key and I don't want that alarm system.
Mm-hmm.
So I probably just end up ripping it out anyway and then go back to original key fobs if I can.
Mm-hmm.
And then that way I can get a second key. So I'll have two keys, two key fobs,
Yeah.
but I gotta rip out that system.
Yeah.
So
Does your wife ever drive this vehicle?
not yet. She hadn't touched it. She likes riding in it, but she don't want to drive it yet.
Yeah. Yeah.
She thinks it's enormous.
Imagine we got in the Yukon XL.
That's another part of the story. So like my only issue with this thing is with the third row up, there is no room behind that third row.
Yeah, it's. I mean, you'd have trouble fitting anything back there because those
Yeah.
back row seats are like at an angle too. So it'd have to be
Yeah.
like about 10 inches wide and maybe 8 inches tall, and that's it.
Yeah. And surprisingly enough, like when we had that Buick Enclave, with the third row up, you had still a good amount of room in that behind the third row. It was
Mm-hmm.
just much more usable like that.
Yeah.
But a Yukon XL would do the same. But it's one of those things where I got now that I've got it back, as long as it drives fine, I got to make a decision. Do I keep it
Mm-hmm.
or do I sell it and get either an XL or like another Buick Enclave?
Hmm.
That's going to be the decision that we eventually have
Yeah.
to make. So the problem is I really I love this version of the Yukons and the Tahoes. I just thought they were awesome. So it's kind of like not like a bucket list car, but like I'd be giving it up just as I got it.
Yeah.
So
I'd
I
keep
don't
I
know.
would I'd keep it for a while unless you're able to get an XL or a Suburban that was the same body style. The thing is, now you've gotten everything done to it. Why would you want to go through all that shit again?
Yeah, I know.
You've already done it. So yeah, speaking of cars, my middle son went on a camping trip with some friends of ours that have a tow behind um, trailer, like RV type trailer thing. So my wife and I were, and I know you have one. My wife and I were, talking about like how there could be a use for that for us. And we'd always said like, I had always said that if I had money to spend on a vehicular toy, that it would be a boat. But being at this baseball tournament all weekend, it would have been nice to bring an RV up there and during the gap in games, like just go hang out at the RV, you know. Um, so and then for a swim, as the kids start doing like travel sports, like just take that rather than getting hotels and things like that, or even but some now the hotel stuff on a trip is fun because the kids play and the parents hang out. But for something where you're at a baseball field or outside all day, the RV would be a nice thing to have. So I don't know. We were kicking the idea around. Um, the trailers are a lot cheaper, but you need to have a truck to tow it. And the type of trailer that we would want to get, we would need to get a Super Duty truck, which even a basic one, and I'm a big fan of used vehicles. I don't know if I want to get a used vehicle. I have to tow stuff, and who knows what the other guy was towing with it. So, but for a decently equipped Super Duty truck with a diesel, you're looking at 70, 80 grand. Add that to 30. Well, now I might as well just get a Class A.
But yeah, you're talking used. I mean, 70 for a used diesel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. New, we're looking at 85, 90, then 30 grand for the trailer. Well, crap.
Yeah.
Now I'm at over 100,000, and I can get a nice Class A for that price.
You
So,
can. Yeah. So we got a Class A gas. We don't have a diesel.
mm-hmm.
Mostly because ours sits more than most, and so it's like the worst thing you could do for a diesel is let it sit.
Yeah.
Because doesn't it get like condensation in the gas lines or something like that?
So diesels like to run. Diesels have a bunch of so diesels naturally burn oil, and the fuel has a lubricative property to it.
Okay.
Diesel motor fuel does. So there's a bunch of seals and O-rings. It's a high pressure system. So, the fuel system's high pressure, so it likes to have fuel running through it to stay. And when it sits, there's no fuel running through it. Everything in there dry rots. So diesels like to run. That's why like you have those places that have like big diesel generators. They run them, once a week so that everything stays. Now you're going to drive out to your RV once a week and start it and run it for a half hour. So yeah, they like to run, and then with a diesel truck, as cool as it would be to have, what would I use it for aside from towing the like that's the other, like, what am I going to do with it? So
You can always go with a Super Duty gas truck though, if you really needed to. I don't know if it won't tow as much, but it all depends on where you're going to go too. Like if you're going to try and go through the mountains,
yeah,
you'd want a diesel. But yeah, you're right though. So like we've taken our gasser. I mean, we're not driving through like Skyline Drive or the Appalachian Mountains, but I mean, we can go down 81
mm-hmm.
and be fine.
Yeah.
And the other thing like you'd want to consider, I guess, is because you got 3 boys.
Yep.
And one is probably bigger than your average bear a little bit,
mm-hmm.
and he's only growing.
All 3 of them are only getting bigger.
Yeah, I mean your oldest one's like gonna be like 8 foot tall by the time he's 13. So yeah, with 3 boys, so this is what I would consider. Because now they make Class A's with a bed that drops down over the captain's chairs, kind of like what the Class C's do.
Yeah.
So the Class C's got the bunk over the cab. Class A's are the flat fronts.
Mm-hmm.
B's are like your camper vans that all the hipsters want.
Oh, yeah.
And I will say this: it's as far as towing goes. If you're a truck towing a big motorhome, even if you got like a dually and you got the 5th wheel with the gooseneck that hooks into the bed, you're pulling the heavier item.
Yeah.
Whereas if you have the Class A, you can pull like a 3,000 to 4,000 pound vehicle behind it, and you don't even know it's there.
Yeah.
But with you having the boys, because I've got 2 girls, so it's pretty easy for me to make 2 beds without the overhead bunk. But if you got the 3 boys, yeah, everyone says, "Oh, get the bunk beds; they're great." Well, the bunk beds take up a lot of room. Whereas if you got a couch that pulls out into a sofa, you get the dinette that pulls out that lowers into a bed, and then you got the bunk over the captain's chairs that lowers down. Now you got 3 actual beds for the boys, plus you and your wife have got the bed all the way in the back for you.
Yeah.
So everyone's got an actual bed, so everyone will sleep. They're not uncomfortable.
Right.
And you just and the other thing is you got more room when you're driving down the road. Like in a truck, if you got the three boys in the back of the truck, you
They're
know,
just they're just hanging out there. Or it's okay, now they're too big. So I'll drive the truck and tow the trailer, and then Lindsay will follow behind in the minivan. Like, I'm not trying to take a convoy of vehicles to a place,
right,
you know. So I'd rather, and that's what our friends had to do because their truck was having some issues and something was going on. So they actually took the truck, the trailer, and their minivan out with them. And it's like that's a lot of vehicles to be going. And the cool thing is like with a Class A, everyone's all together in the same vehicle. The kids, sit on the couch and put the TV on. I don't care.
right.
Watch a game.
That's what
Like,
mine do.
yeah,
Straight up.
yeah,
They put a movie on,
yeah,
or one's in the way back in the bed,
hmm,
reading a book on a bed, lounging. The other one's on the couch watching the TV.
yeah,
Or if they want to eat something, they get something out of the fridge. They're sitting down at the dinette.
yeah.
Yeah, my wife can get up and move around. If any of them got to pee,
That go to the bathroom.
just go in the bathroom.
Yeah,
As long as I don't have to pee.
right.
Like at that point, you're the only limitation on the whole thing
Yeah,
because
yeah.
you can't pee and drive at the same time. That's a danger to
I
everybody.
think, yeah. Well, yeah. Just get up and walk to the back. Hey, hold this.
Imagine
Put it.
if you had autopilot, that'd be awesome.
I know it would be great. So, what is this?
Um, so one of the good things is, so I think next year, like early next year, I think dealers are going to be hurting for sales.
Oh yeah.
And then I was talking to my uncle who's in the mortgage industry. He thinks mortgage rates are going to come back into like the 4.5 range.
Okay.
So, but he thinks it's either next year or the year after. But he doesn't think this mortgage, because with an RV, especially a Class A, you finance it like a house. It's a mortgage. It's like a
Right.
20 year. It's like a 20-year mortgage on this thing.
Hmm.
And actually, you get a tax write off on the interest and the mortgage and the insurance too. You can write all that off. But so I think the time to buy, I think right now you're still getting dealers that think things are flying off the shelf.
Right.
And I think they're going to get hit hard by these interest rates. And I think once the interest rates come back down, I think that's when it's going to be the right time to hop on it. Because I think dealers are going to have a huge stock of inventory because they're already starting to backlog now because the 2024s are coming out. It's just like the car dealer lots.
Right.
They're trying to get rid of the 2023s, but they still had people that had them on order, so they're kind of getting rid of those as they come in. But
Mhm.
I know the manufacturers are pressing these dealers to keep buying, and they're
Okay.
like, no, I don't want to buy them because I can't get rid of them all.
Right.
So I think at some point they're going to have too many RVs on their lots. So I think that's going to push prices down a little bit. And never mind the fact when you go to an RV dealership, you can get almost 30% off the sticker. If you guys are really looking, I'd say start looking probably early spring, maybe, and
Yeah.
just see where everything is.
Yeah. Because and the thing is, like, because I know when you like the financing of them, like, because you can kind of treat them like the terms are longer. It's not you're not doing like your typical 5-year auto loan on it. It's more of a like what is it, 15 years you can stretch them out for. Um,
It depends on the model year. I mean, if
okay.
you get one within like 3 years old, I think you can do 20 years.
Wow, yeah. And then you can write the interest off on your taxes
Yep.
because it counts as a second home. So,
Yep.
you
And
know,
then,
um,
but then for you guys, because if you do travel, one, it's going to be more comfortable. I mean, you guys travel in the minivan, so it might not be like a whole lot more comfortable, but when you go, you're not having like you don't have to cram everybody into a hotel room either. Like everybody's got a
yeah,
bed. Um,
yeah,
and like you said with sports, so like we did the same thing when my daughter was playing field hockey last fall. she had 2 games on a Sunday. Of all,
Mhm.
I mean, field hockey is usually always on a Sunday, which sucks because I'd like to watch some football.
Yeah.
Um, but so we went up there. They played the first game. I think it was like 10 o'clock, and their next game
Mhm.
wasn't until like 2 or 3.
Okay.
So we took that RV. We went into the high school parking lot, put the jacks down, slides out, and we literally barbecued until the next game. And we had the TV on, watching football outside.
Mhm. Yeah. No one probably wanted to leave the. No one probably wanted to leave the RV to go watch a field hockey game when they were watching football.
I know. I think
So
the girls probably got all stiff and like they were sitting around. I was like, well, I mean, they're gonna be sitting around anyway. Might as well make it enjoyable for everybody.
right, right. So yeah, it's definitely something to look at. And even if say I was driving down to Wilmington, I might. We have a place to stay, but I might be tempted to take it, just for that trip, and then stop and maybe go down to Myrtle and stay in one of those campgrounds by the beach. And then, I could always throw the in-laws in it, and drive down and, so something to, because the boys like, okay, you guys could be uncomfortable for a day. You'll live,
Yeah, but
you know. And I have 2 vehicles I could probably flat tail with it anyway. Because, well, no, the Fusion I couldn't because it's all-wheel drive. But the I could probably flat tow the van behind it if I wanted to.
I don't. So Toyotas, you can't flat toe.
No, all right.
It's
So I'd have to get.
You got to get an American made car.
Okay.
Um, unless I mean, if it's manual transmission, you can flat toe pretty much anything. But um, like a Chevy Equinox, Jeep Cherokee, um, any of the big Lambda platform GMs like the Traverse, the
Hmm.
Enclave, they can be flat toed. There's like there's a guide they put out every year and tells you every flat towable car that was made.
Hmm.
Honda used to make the CRV, and that was a real popular flat towable car, but that's not flat towable anymore. So you got to get a
Oh,
year that
really?
it was. Yeah.
Okay.
Um, but if you need something big, then they've got some big cars you can flat tow if you like that Lambda platform. Which I mean, like I said, we had a Buick Enclave years ago. We loved it until the engine blew up, and I
Right.
mean,
Now,
but
can you use a dolly if you wanted to?
you could, but it's a pain in the ass. It's just another thing you got to store.
Hmm.
Um, and then like when you get there, you can kind of leave it behind the RV, but it's just kind of, you see very few people dolly tow
Hmm.
nowadays.
Yeah.
Um, they just kind of go with it and either get a flat towable car um, or they're pulling their fifth wheel with their Super Duty F850 or whatever it's called.
Well, I saw it was a Prevost Class A, and they were flat towing a Ram 2500 behind it,
Yeah,
and they
no.
had a golf cart in the bed of the Ram.
Uh-huh.
But I've even seen dudes towing a boat with their RV.
Yeah, I've
So
seen with those buses, those diesel pushers, man. I've seen someone pulling a full blown enclosed trailer and then something behind that. Like
yeah,
it's like a triple. It's like they're literally towing the convoy.
yeah, it's a
Like that,
train.
like that can't be safe because the person that's driving that thing doesn't have to have a CDL either.
Oh no, it could just be whoever.
Yeah,
So some random.
They let me drive one. That's how not safe that is.
Yeah, yeah. So and don't
Um,
th- those big motor coach they have air brakes, don't they?
yep. If it's a diesel, it's got air brakes.
Yeah.
And you want to know why it doesn't need a CDL? It's because it doesn't have the dual axles in the back. If it's got
So
dual axles in the back, you got to have a CDL. If it doesn't,
mhm,
if it's got the single axle in the back, no CDL.
yeah. It's funny though because I had a CDL way back in the day, and for you need to get an air brake endorsement to operate a vehicle with air brakes, and it's like hmm, but uh, if you're just driving a whatever type of truck, it has air brakes, you need an endorsement. But if you're driving your Prevost 53-foot long uh, motor coach Class A RV with air brakes, you're good. Don't need it.
Yeah, there's
So
big difference, right?
yeah,
with no
Yeah,
difference,
definitely.
with no difference at all. I will say this: the one nice thing about the diesel pushers is that you can go to any truck stop and get gas.
Hmm.
If you're in a gasser, there at a truck stop, there aren't dedicated gas lanes for the most part.
Okay.
So you got to go where all the other cars go. And
Mm.
unfortunately, with all these convenience stores, a lot of the gas pumps are perpendicular to the convenience store
Yeah.
rather than parallel. Now,
Hmm.
parallel, you can pull in and out pretty easily.
Yeah.
But if they're perpendicular and you got to face towards the convenience store, if
Yep.
anyone's parked in front of the convenience store, now you got to wait for them to leave so you can pull out. And you get like
Yeah.
you need enough room, especially if you got a car behind you because you can't back up.
Hmm.
Like if you're flat towing that car, you can't back up. It'll
Right.
jack off like that.
Oh
So
yeah, because it's relatively short.
yeah,
So yeah, I learned the to- backing a short trailer is infinitely harder than backing a long trailer.
I
So
can't I can't back up the tractor to drag the softball fields because I keep jackknifing it on my way out.
yeah, yeah. Well, it's funny. I have that problem too, dragging the baseball field, and I'm like trying to back out and get it. So like the one at Arnold Park, because that's usually where we play, and you guys play there too.
Yeah.
Like I pull it out, and I'm like trying to get it out, and then I'll end up jackknifing it. So I found that I can go left, like back it up, like so the trailer's going back up the hill. I have to drive to the bottom and make a big U-turn and go back up. And it doesn't have power steering, so it's even harder. And then like my belly's in the way of the steering wheel,
Mine
and
too.
I'm
Yeah.
I'm and I'm tall, so it's like hard to like. I have the kids. The kids always want to like ride in that damn thing,
Yep.
so it gets to be a bit of a pain.
You're just like, no, you can't ride it. And I can't pull the thing back. Get out.
Yeah, yeah. So
Um,
who knows? But
so what are you guys done with vacations for the year? Or you guys got one more?
no, we're gonna go back down to see her parents because we went down there in we were down there I guess 2-3 weeks ago. We're gonna go back down. We didn't make it to the beach at all while we were down there. We did a lot of stuff with like I kind of helped get some hang TVs and do things like that. So they got a. I went out and we bought a a garage refrigerator. Um, so doing we just pretty much like moving in stuff we did. So this time we're gonna go back down and try to do some more fun stuff.
So
So
you're a forced labor is what you're saying.
yeah, yeah, but it was worth it because I came home with a 75-inch TV. So
There ain't
um,
nothing wrong with that.
yeah, yeah. So it was because my father-in-law had bought it when they were in New York, and ended up when they moved to the new house, it's just too big. So he gave it to me. I brought it home and I put the 75 in my living room, and now there's a 65 in my basement. So
That's why you
it
sent me a
works out
picture
pretty
of it.
well.
Because
Yeah.
you and I were having the conversation. We're like, oh, I wonder if it's gonna be too big for the room. It is not.
No, no, I could probably do 85 in that room. I think. And now that's what I want to do. I want to put an 85-inch TV in there. Because we've had this conversation before. You're more the guy that wants like the perfect picture and all the settings and stuff. I just want the biggest possible TV I can get for the least amount of money.
Right.
So I just want it to be huge
I
because
will say this. Go ahead.
like I can't tell the difference between 4K OLED and all this. Like, nope, but I can tell the difference between a 55 and a 75. I can tell that difference right off the break.
There was a guy who did a YouTube video and he recorded different parts of it in different resolutions.
Mm-hmm.
And his basic premise was the naked eye can't tell the difference between 720p, 1080p, and 4K. And
Hmm.
so basically what he did was he says, I'm going to run this video and I want you to guess when it's 720, when it's 1080, and when it's 4K. I got maybe one thing right
Okay.
on a 4K version of it.
Mm-hmm.
The rest of it I got completely wrong. And he's right. The human eyes can't really perceive the difference um, during most viewing type sessions, right?
Right.
Um, and the funny part is, so like we a couple years ago we bought that 55-inch OLED that we put on the family room wall,
Uh-huh.
and then last year we got the 65-inch like lower end high sense TV with that Google TV interface. And I gotta be honest, like that 65-inch out in the garage,
Hmm.
it looks good to me. Like I can't really tell.
Yeah.
It's supposedly a 4K TV, but what do I know? I mean, I can't really
Right.
tell.
Yeah.
Um,
I don't know what mine are. I really don't. Um, I could probably go into settings and see, but and how much broadcast the stuff that's coming out, how much of it is in 4K? That's the other thing.
barely any of it is.
Yeah. So
Maybe the sports, but I doubt it.
yeah.
Especially on the streaming platforms, it just for the amount of bandwidth a 4K stream would take up, let alone the processing power the providers would need to process that and then write processor for how many X thousands of people. I think that'd be incredibly difficult.
Yeah.
But they've got video compression software that probably can do it. But
Hmm.
to be honest, for most people, if you put it out there in 1080p, but you did 60 frames per second, the frames per second is probably the more valuable bit of that.
Yeah.
Because especially with sports, because a lot of people can imagine if you watch the NFL on your TV and the quarterback makes a throw like out wide, like out past the hash marks to a receiver or
Hmm.
down the field and the camera's following it, it looks kind of like they call it artifacting, where you see multiple balls. It doesn't look like a fluid motion for the ball.
Yeah.
It looks like there's multiple balls and you can kind of see it bouncing across the screen a little bit. So that's the frames per second. And generally, it's in Europe they do 25 and 50 frames per second, but the US we use 30 and 60 frames per second.
Hmm.
60 frames per second, the smoothness of the video, especially for sports, is so much better.
Right.
Like I would rather watch a 720p resolution with 60 frames per second than watch 4K with 25 frames per second,
Yeah.
because the 4K one's just going to look choppy. So
Yeah. And it gets real bad with hockey because it's moving so fast.
yes,
Like
100%.
you'll see the puck moving across. Now these flat panel TVs, they're and the HD is almost it's like it's made hockey so much better than
Mm-hmm.
watching it on the old boob tube. But it gets your frame rate has to be up because you'll see that it looks like it looks like the old Fox track puck, but it's not. It's just the you know the goofy artifacting of the puck moving so fast. So,
Yeah.
but
All right, man. Um, I think we hit most of the stuff. We'll get back on
yeah,
track probably next week.
yeah,
Uh, maybe hit something a little more serious than our vacations.
yeah. Vacations and RVs and baseball. So, um,
I could probably talk RVs for at least an hour.
we'll see. I like them because they're vehicles, so I can get into it that way. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah,
I like anything with an engine.
we
So,
were actually we thought about even possibly trading ours in.
mhm.
We were thinking about going from a Class A to a Super C.
Okay.
The Super Cs are like it's a lot much larger Class C with a diesel engine in it.
Is it like a Freightliner chassis almost?
Yes, that's exactly what it is.
Okay.
Um, then I saw the price of them. Like I think that the least expensive one I saw was like 225 grand.
Right.
I'm like,
Well, then
no,
you start getting into crazy things like have you ever seen a toter home?
no, it's not.
Okay, so dudes that do like drag racing will get them. So it'll be a Super C RV, but then you tow essentially a car trailer behind it, an enclosed car trailer.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So Yeah, so it's got it pretty much. It looks like a semi truck. They're insane
Yeah,
how big these things are.
I've seen some of those. I didn't know what that was. I
Yeah,
didn't know that's what they were called though.
yeah, yeah. So they're big. It's pretty cool. But yeah, toter homes or toy haulers. Uh, but I don't know. I might need it more. I'll be coaching more baseball. I'm actually coaching the 9U travel team this year, so that should be fun.
We we've actually got our softball tournament coming up in 2 weeks. We
Okay.
start practice Sunday,
Hmm.
so we'll see how we do. I don't understand all the rules. So like with softball, they've got this thing called the DP and the flex,
Okay.
and I don't know what the heck that means. So essentially, from what I understand, the DP can play one defensive position, but they don't bat. The flex player bats for the DP, so it's almost like a designated fielder and a designated hitter, and they essentially take up one spot in the lineup because one of them doesn't hit. And then I
Hmm.
found out, and then I found out it's like apparently. So if I only play 9 players in the field, but I can have 11 players bat. So
Okay.
I can have 2 girls that aren't playing in the field in my batting lineup. But I
Yeah.
got
So that's how baseball was. You bat the whole roster, but only 9 of them play in the field.
but here's the weird thing. I got 12 girls on the roster.
Hmm.
So do I not am I not able to play one girl at all?
I don't know.
Like I so we're I'm actually so luckily we have someone within the organization who's done this before.
Hmm.
And so I was like, I got about 2 weeks before this tournament. I gotta find out how this works because like I don't want to hand my lineup card and the guy's like, okay, well, where's the rest of your lineup?
Right.
Or who's your DP and who's your flex? I'm like, I don't even know what that is.
That sounds
So,
goofy to me.
dude, we've had to do so much reading between me and my wife, the other coach. We're like, we don't remember because we didn't have a DP and a flex for league play in the Pony
Right.
League. That wasn't part of it. So we're
Yeah.
trying to learn it all now.
Hmm. Yeah,
But
that's weird. Yeah, I'm in the break between the end of tournament season and fall ball. So the oldest will be playing fall, and then the middle will be, since he's the 9U kid, he'll be on the 9U travel team because there wasn't going to be one. But I'm only doing it for a year because there's a guy that wants to do it, but he's going to be away. He's going to be deployed for a year. So once he comes back, I'm just heading it back over to him. So, um,
do you have your
but
tryouts this Thursday?
there's not enough players. We had just have enough players to make a team, so there's not going to be a tryout.
I was asking because I got to go pick up a first aid kit from a guy who's coaching. He's doing a tryout for his team.
Oh, okay.
So I got to
Yeah.
meet him there, and I'm going to pick up the first aid kit in case we got blood or something.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Luckily, one of the assistant coaches is an actual doctor, so I
Okay.
won't have to deal with blood
Right. You're good. What?
because I'll
Where's your
pass out.
tournament?
I got a cut on my elbow. Boom!
Yeah. Oh,
I'm out.
what are those?
So
What are those goats that just fall over when they're scared?
this tournament it's either like 20 minutes north or like 40 minutes west. They haven't picked I get so the whole tournament has like 7 different divisions,
Okay.
and so they're spreading out the divisions amongst like 3 different parks. So we don't know which one we're going to yet.
Okay. Yeah, 'cause we did one in Linthicum, Ferndale, which is actually really nice fields up there. I'd never been there before,
Mm-hmm.
and then we did another one in Ellicott City. Um, and the boys they violated my rule of tournaments, which is if you're going to lose early, lose the first game so we can get our day back. But they decided to win the first game, which is cool for them. Um, but then they proceeded to get stomped in the championship game, and there's a 2 hour break in the middle. So, but they were never getting beaten bad enough to get mercy ruled. So I was like, and then I'm sitting there because I keep score. Like I'm always right behind home plate with the umpire. I get to know him, and I'm like, Hey, Blue, let's make that strike zone a little bigger, huh? Let's get out of here. Like it's over said strike.
Maybe next episode we'll be able to give an update for both of them.
Yeah.
But for now, we want to thank Cheers and Spirits for sponsoring this episode. Please like, subscribe, comment, share. Leave a comment if you also have a good travel ball story or travel RV story. And we will see you next week.